DeepCoverTV, it's your host Speedy. Almost there. I'm here right now in downtown Maryland, right now at 216 North Campus. We have Mr. Stephen Miles, entrepreneur, fashion designer, business owner. There's so much labels you can call this man. I don't know what to call him. We gonna go inside, we gonna ask him, we gonna find out. Stay tuned.
Okay.
I was getting tongue-tied. I was like, how can I present this guy, like fashion designer, entrepreneur, business owner? Like, what do you see yourself as?
Wow. All those things. But I think overall, I think I want to see myself as like a brand. I think a lot of times we try to put people into a box, and into what labels them in business and life. And so I'm not just a business person or just an entrepreneur or just a designer, because I don't really fit like the whole designer-ish, mode. Like I'm not Project Runway guy, I'm not that eccentric, yada yada yada. So I think overall I'm just evolving into what I always was, and that is just simply just a Stephen Miles brand. Yeah. So it's more than just fashion, it's more than just it's a culture, it's a lifestyle.
But you said that, who is Stephen Miles?
Man, Stephen Miles is a, wow, where I want to start with that one? That's a good question. Stephen Miles is a African-American male, I guess to make it really generic right now, from Baltimore City, who grew up in East Baltimore and has had some ups and downs and so forth and so on. But Stephen Miles is a guy to go really left field, and I'll explain that. And I'll kind of segue back into, from beginning to end. I think as a child, I think as kids, we all know that there's something special about us. And I think that because of life and sometimes parenting, sometimes school, sometimes even church, sometimes just family, friends, yada, 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 they can help to kind of hinder what we are or stifle what we are. And so now, as I'm beginning to grow and evolve as a man, as a person, I'm realizing some of the great things that are inside me that I was born with.
Right.
And it's innate inside me, and it's beginning to kind of explain, like, my whole life beginning to finally make sense over the past maybe 6 months or so. Maybe the past year beginning to finally kind of make sense. After all things I've done, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur, I've had a couple of jobs, a handful. But I think overall, I've always been this entrepreneur and this artist. Not the artist in the sense of I paint or I'm eccentric or I'm all the different things that we kind of see artists as, but I think just overall as a lover of fine things, be it antique furniture, to clothing, to a certain lifestyle. So Stephen Miles is a kid from East Baltimore who grew up poor, didn't have much. But is realizing now the greatness that's inside of him, and realizing the wealth potential that's inside of him.
So was it hard kind of coming from a poor neighborhood, actually coming up poor and actually trying to follow the dreams where you trying to go at in life?
Well, I think I kind of knew early on that we were poor. I kind of knew early on. I remember some of my memories as a kid where my parents talking, arguing, but talking and trying to figure out finances, and I always want to do things to change the financial situation, and it wasn't even fashion. I wasn't thinking about as a kid, I'm going to be a great designer and I'm going to do this. I grew up thinking about, we were struggling. We didn't have much. So the artist part was always there, but it would be kind of unfolded until I got to be a teenager. So I would say it was hard, I guess in one instance. But then I think, as most people do sometimes, as you grow up in it, you begin to kind of get used to how to survive in it. Right. You don't want to stay there until you kind of learn how to survive and maneuver inside of being broke or struggling or not having this. So I know I wore hand-me-downs for people that were grown. I remember having, the roaches in the house and the mice and the rats in the backyard. So, it was never a comfortable feeling. And you always know that you want more, but sometimes you just don't know how to get it. I think that's one of the hard parts. A lot of times not knowing what's like inside your gut, how to get it out. I think that's the kind of art for most people, how to get it out of you.
So from a poor black man coming from an urban background, what made you get into fashion though?
Well, you know, interesting thing is that even though we grew up poor, I had some incredible parents, and my mom, who's from Jersey, and they struggled too growing up, but she always said, I'm not going to allow you and your brother to be victims to circumstance or victims to the environment. So she put us in schools that would culture us and give us like a better outlook on life. And so from grade school, from kindergarten, I never went to my zone school. I went to schools that were usually in the county or in other cultures, so that way it immersed me and emerged me in other cultures, which helped to refine me as a kid. So I didn't know at 7, 8, 8, 10 years old I was going to be into fabric and men's clothing. But I did know that there was more than just growing up in the ghetto with all the kids who, ride bikes and play games, Atari or Sega Genesis. I knew there was more to it than that from an early age. And so I didn't really evolve into, I think, the designer part until about 14. Now, I always knew I was always small and skinny and stuff never fit right. So that was always a constant. But at about age 14, I actually got into it. So I was going to fabric stores, and I was just hanging out in button shops and old tailors. It just kind of began to be innate inside me. And so I began to kind of fine-tune and refine the craft of the skill and the art form that was inside of me. And it just kind of grew from sewing a button on something to say I made it, to taking like sewing classes with design, and it just evolved over and over again. It's evolving over time until this.
So what was your first piece of, your first thing you ever designed, basically?
You know what? I think it was like a sweater vest. My dad's best friend, big shout out to Uncle Sylvester Racy. He was like an uncle to me now, well, that's my dad's best friend. But he would give me a lot of his clothes from when he was smaller, and I was going to like a men's small at the time, so I could fit a lot of the stuff. So I remember taking this sweater vest he gave me, and he had really great taste. He would get stuff, he got some like old department stores in downtown Baltimore, probably in the 70s or so. So it was classic pieces. And so I recalled this brown knit sweater vest. And so what I did was, I got a zipper. I believe I got it from Morton Shank, which was on Baltimore Street. It is home to the Hippodrome Theater now. I got a zipper from them and I bought some buttons from them, and I took it down to Old Town Mall, to Old Town Tailor. It was a tailor shop called Old Town Tailors in Old Town Mall. And so I took it to them, and I begged these older guys, and they put the zipper in it for me, and I sold I think about 12 gold buttons in a V pattern going up both sides of the sweater vest.
Right.
I told folks I made it. I think that was the first piece I think I ever did, and it just kind of grew. And I would tell folks, I would do something on a Saturday, go to church on Sunday, and I would tell folks I made it, and folks started believing me. I wasn't making it. I would just sewing buttons on it, or I would have them put a buttonhole, and that began to just, I was actually embellishing. I wasn't making anything, but because I couldn't sew. I didn't have anybody to make it for me at the time, so I was just embellishing current existing garments, as most people do now, and just add my own little twist to it and just say I made it.
So do you feel as though the first thing you made was like an achievement for you?
I wouldn't say it was an achievement. I could remember exactly what I felt when it was done. I just knew it was something that I wanted to do, and I just kept exploring those thoughts or those ideas in my head. So I don't know if it was an achievement or not, because I don't remember, to be honest. But I was like 14 years old when I did that. So, but I do know that I liked it, and so I just kept doing it. And I like the idea of taking nothing and making it something. And that still is a thrill for me. Almost 20 years later, it still thrills me. It's still when it was, see some fabric on a roll and then it turns into that. That's what excites me.
So you designed that right?
Right. So it's a joy. Yeah, thank you. So it's still a joy to take something that is like on a roll of fabric, and then just it begins to take shape and form. So that goes back to the God part of us. Like when you and Coop had the idea, for this TV thing, and how quick it's taken off for you guys. Hey, you need to take an idea in your head and see it take form.
Right.
Feels good at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Feels good. So the same thing with me and fabric. And you guys are doing pretty well with this. You get some great interviews and great footage, and some great folks you're interviewing. So to see something that you thought of in your head, and it takes shape and form, the same feeling I feel when I take some fabric and it turn into a shirt or a suit or whatever it may be. So that's what I think I would say chasing, but I still find a thrill.
So you took pieces of fabric and made it to this suit right here.
Right.
So how many days do it take to make something as excellent as this right here?
Because
I know I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. Well, you know what? I don't think I could either until I started doing it.
Right.
You know, it's like we do interviews. Right? I could never interview somebody, or I could never talk on camera, or coop than a photographer. I could never do that. It just because whenever he takes pictures, I'm trying to figure out what button to push. So he takes pictures. I'm looking at the camera like I'm gonna do this camera, but that's not my world.
Right.
So days wise, not even a secret out, but I mean it's about like 3 days for a suit, maybe varying on how much time you put in per day. A great skill tailor can probably do a whole suit, maybe like in 2 days, varying on how much time he puts in per day.
Have you made any suits for anybody in particular that how you would say like an accomplishment for you as well?
Yeah. One was Erica know who Steve Harvey is. So yeah, so I remember when I met him when they did it was a comedy tour. Okay. Back in like 98, 99, they came to Baltimore. When the first drop was him and Bernie Mac and Cedric and Bernie Mac, Cedric and D.O. Hughley. But they were here in Baltimore at the arena, and so I remembered. My tailor at the time was named Hebrew Watson, God rest his soul, and so I found some fabric. Actually, I was sewing for a designer named Earl Bannister here locally, and Earl and I are still great friends, an incredible designer, and I work with Earl every single day. And so Earl had some scraps from him, so when he was throwing away, and I said, Earl, hey, could I have this scraps? He was like, this trash, but if you want it, take it, it's trash. We're throwing it away. It was like this black and like navy and gray and white, kind of like a window pane, cotton silk or silk. No, it was linen. It was linen, and it was like it was not like a complete square. It was like cut up, but I grabbed it up and I said that's enough for a shirt. I just took it home with me, and so I studied Steve Harvey body form on TV. So I just kept looking at, the Steve Harvey TV show. We had like the sitcom with him and Cedric, and I would look at him and kind of begin to look at the size of what his neck would be, how big his chest would be, and begin to how long, how tall he was. So I began to kind of guesstimate because I was taught. I did retail. Like my first entry into fashion was I worked at a retail store called Weed from Wear in the Plaza. Back in the 90s, and so the owner, Marty Wade, he was a huge influence, and I can honestly say much of what I am in fashion is largely I think because of him, he exposed me to a whole lot. As a teen, 14, 15, 16 years old, I'm going to trade shows in New York, which was, it's a big deal for a kid 15 years old. I'm doing the trade shows with him. So as he's going out buying for the store, I'm tagging along. I'm taking with him. And so he introduced me to Earl Bannister. And so in that introduction, I met Earl. Earl taught me how to sew. And so I took these scraps home. And I learned how to fit at Wade's store doing retail. Because of formwear, so I was taking measurements for weddings. So I understood the human form and how to take measurements. I could kind of guesstimate somebody's size because I was around it every day and learned how to do it. So I took the fabric to Hebrew, and he made a shirt out of that scrap. So Steve Harvey, when he was in town, I took this piece of scraps and turned it into a beautiful shirt, this plaid shirt. And I went down to the arena, and I went down, I guess, where the side doors was. I'll never forget that side door on Liberty. Anyway, so I go there, I say, I'm Steve Harvey's designer, and he told me to bring this shirt down for him because he'll be in town. So they look at me like, okay, we don't have a name. I said, well, he told me to come down. I'm designer. They was like, all right, well, listen, he's on stage right now. We can't call him, but you can sit on this chair and wait. So I'm making all this stuff up as I go along. I'm just freestyle, like I'm freestyling, like it's Freestyle Fridays right now. I'm freestyling. So everybody comes out those doors. I would speak to him and say hello and give him a card. Hey, I'm Stephen. I'm in clothes. Steve Harvey. I got a Steve Harvey shirt. You know, So drop it off. I'm just saying hi. Everybody comes to the doors. Everybody comes to the door. Everybody comes to the door. I'm just saying hi to him, telling him what I do, telling him I got his shirt. I'm a designer. You know, y'all know who I am. But so finally, it was this one dude. He was cool, nicely dressed. And so I gave him my card, so he's like, all right, cool, shorty, that's what's up, nice shirt. Bada bing, bada bang. Show is over. So everybody's coming out. So I just squeeze on through because it's over now, so I'm not walking in without paying. I'm walking in because the store shows up, so everybody's coming out. I just slide on my little skates, so I just slide right on the door. So I go into the main area and I see this, you know, where it's all gated up, all the big old security, all the big old security there. All 300 pound is
like linebacker.
Yeah, like Debo and all those brothers. So I'm there. So that guy, when the last guy I spoke to, said, oh, hey, shorty right there, he good. I know who that guy was. But that guy I gave a card to and said who I was, remembered me. And so that's Steve's designer, y'all. He good. I know who this dude was. And so he told me to come on. So security let me through. As I was going past security, I was kind of thinking like it was kind of surreal. Because it's big old guys and this guy that I spoke to. And he's walking back to Steve Harvey, introducing me to folks along the way. And he gets me to the door of Steve Harvey. He said, all right, shorty, go on the side. I look above the door, and it's Steve Harvey's name. And I freeze. Because, I think in life, I think we never really expect to get somewhere. Right. You know, it's kind of that girl goes when and you finally say hey to her, and she give you her number, and y'all hang out, you kind of think, wow, I'm really dating this chick I was dreaming about. So I get inside the door, and I see Steve Harvey sitting there. So now I'm kind of like, yo, I didn't think I was going to get here, you know. So before I could really say too much to him, I think I say hello, hey, try to say my name. This big old 6'6" security dude steps up like, ooh, who are you? So I wanted to say leaving. Biggest on the world. I said, so man, listen, I got the shirt in my hand. I said, listen, all I want is a shot. If it fit, all I want is a shot. You know, and we work with you. If it don't, I walk out. You never got to see me again. So at that point, you know, Steve's like, oh, you know, I was going to give him a break, you know. So it's, you know, females in there, Cedric's there, the whole crew is there. So, you know, so I give him the shirt. So he takes off his shirt to put on, you know, my shirt. You can hear a pin drop. Everybody standing like you can hear everybody like waiting, like holding their breath to see if the shirt was going to fit. So I'm hoping, I hope this shirt fit. I hope this shirt, because I do not want to be looking stupid in here. So he puts it on, it fits. Now I can exhale. And guess who's the first one to get fitted? Cool. I mean, that's 6'6", 300-pound security guard. The first one in line.
The same one was stepping in front of you.
And then the story and the story kind of, and the rest is history, so to speak, and to open some doors for me, so forth and so on. And you and I were talking earlier about the whole Baltimore support thing. And so I asked you to talk about that because in that moment, he paid. I was doing like $125 a shirt back then. And so he wanted to say, I went 4 of them. He ordered 4 shirts, $500. He gave me $300 bills right on the spot. No questions asked, asked for a receipt. And I began to think about all of the people that I've known who never spent $1 with me, or try to talk to them on prices, or give me a deal, we could be family or be friends, or you know how that, how
this guy you didn't know from basically.
Didn't know from Adam. And
so it's more supporting.
They supported friends, whomever. And as for this guy, he could have said I wanted it for free because of what his name means. He was always a sharp dressed guy. And so I could go into the area of Baltimore's not supportive. I could say that. First he was going to say, I got more love from, you know, so forth and so on. But had it not been for Baltimore people, I wouldn't even have been there. So we kind of missed that part. Like, the fabric came from a designer who wasn't selfish and gave me the scraps. The guy who made it, you know, was from Baltimore, who believed in what I was doing. I don't know if I even paid him for it at the time, but he made it.
So Brian wanted support to a
So,
certain extent.
and yeah, and you know, it's so much support here, and we think it has to be everybody's support is for it to be support.
Right.
If it's one person supporting you, then that's support. So it doesn't matter how many or how little. If I hate when folks say, and it's big in hip hop now, everybody says self-made. No one's self-made. First of all, your mom and daddy got you here.
Right.
So you weren't self-made. If you're selling CDs, you're a rapper, you sell CDs, little mix CDs, somebody has to buy it.
Right.
That's support.
So is your family members and friends that support you now?
I mean, it's mixed. It's mixed. And I'm not mad at that. Like, as far as like immediate family, my mom and brother are very supportive of me. My dad passed, so I'm gonna exclude him, like he's not there, but when he was here, he was. My mom was like my #1 fan and my #1 critic at times, in a good way, because she wants to see the best in me. So as far as, not all family supports me, I would be lying to say if they did. I think because a lot of times folks can't usually understand the path I'm going down. Like being an entrepreneur and doing stuff that's unconventional, usually kind of doesn't know we get the support. Even I even had some folks in the business for themselves don't get where I'm trying to go. Coop, the photographer here, was the first one that helped me to swing a hammer in this store and help me grab the hardwood flooring from the loading dock. So I didn't get a lot of friends supporting, but I appreciate him being here. So I can focus on the folks that didn't, or focus on the folks that did. I choose to focus on the support that's here. And had it not been for Steve Harvey, it exposed me to a wealth mentality. And at that moment, I began to understand what wealth was, and what a wealth mindset was, and what a broke mindset was. And my most affluent customers, and so I could name, here locally have a lot of pull and are wealthy. The wealthiest ones never ever ask for a receipt. The broke ones always do. So we're gonna realize the difference in a person who has money and a person who doesn't. So people who have money really aren't caught up, they aren't so attached to the money because they see it as limitless. Folks who don't have any money usually are like, they just always got to nitpick about every single thing. So I began to realize in meeting him what poverty was, and what a wealth mindset was. What support is, pulling your money out and saying, hey, DeepCoverTV, I support you. Here's $50 for an advertising. Right. So we can understand what support is.
So what's going on as far as the store that we in right now?
Okay. I'm at 216 North Packer Street. I'm excited about what's unfolding here in the store and what it's becoming. I was not initially looking for this location, but I'm so glad I decided to come to the Great Lexington Market, the oldest market in the country, and the GM of the market, Robert Thomas. He gets Baltimore. He gets the arts community here in Baltimore, and so we were talking about me partnering with them as far as the market and helping to bring a fresh face to the market, into the market area. So the store came about. So I'm bringing like a haberdashery fabric store. The oldest fabric store, what started me on the store hunt again was the oldest fabric store in Baltimore City, closed after almost like 100 years in December of last year. Almost a year ago, it closed its doors. And so that was kind of a sweet, bitter moment for me, or bittersweet, like a sweet sour moment for me, because I had gone there and shopped there as a teenager, so now it's gone. So I said, I'm opening a fabric store because it's a need for all this thriving, growing arts community here, and I wanted to service that. So I'm doing a fabric store, I'm doing my own clothing on a retail basis. On a retail basis, I'm doing sewing classes, I'm doing manufacturing for other designers. So if you have an idea for, let's say, sweatsuits, we'll produce the sweatsuits for you, or for jeans, or for button-down shirts, or ties. We'll actually produce those garments for you and put your name inside of. So that's what I'm working on now. So it's helping to grow the thriving arts and fashion community in Baltimore.
Okay, and also I was watching TV and I saw if I was found an interview for your store and stuff like that. So how do you feel about that?
Man, it was incredible. It was an honor, and that came again because in the market. The marketing and media person for Lexington Market, Darlene, is actually Jewel and a sweetheart. She handles all of the that for all of the markets in the city. And so I gave her a press release that I wrote up, and she took that press release and emailed it out to her people. She got a response back from Fox 45, and they were interested in my story and what I was doing here, and that's kind of how it happened. It was an incredible experience for me. My first time on Fox 45, so that was a big deal. I'm still getting people hitting me back now, telling me how much they enjoyed it and they enjoyed the colorful suits and so forth and so on. So that was a big deal, you know, for me.
And we're gonna close out this. So what's next, Mr. Stephen Wise?
Okay, I would honestly say what's next is, you know what, I want to say one thing. When I tell folks who are listening and trying to figure out how to make something work, the one thing I'll say to you is that don't sabotage yourself. And so now moving forward, next is I will no longer sabotage myself, and I will make, you know, what's in my head a reality. So that's what's next, is getting the store finished where you guys can really see the vision in my head into the store. So that's kind of what's next right now, and then I'll probably go in advance from that point on, but that's the next interview.
All right, man, it's a pleasure having you here right
Thank
now,
you,
man.
thank you.
Any shouts, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to my mom, shout out to my family who really support me. To those who don't support me, I appreciate you. Shout out to Robert Torrance and Darlene Hudson and Caprice Jackson Garrett and Sahar and all my students in the sewing school. I appreciate and love each of you. Thank you guys for the future me. I really appreciate this as well as you guys give me. All right?
And just like that, man, it's DeepCoverTV. It's BD. It's a wrap. It's Mr. Stephen Wise. We getting our fashion on, and we gonna close on just like that. Peace.
Time hurries by, we're here and we're gone.